Why did Genghis Khan, one of the most fearsome conquerors in history, refuse to invade India? A man who built an empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, subduing kingdoms and cities with military genius, brute force, and unimaginable violence. Yet, when he reached the doorstep of India, he turned back. What stopped him? Today, we'll unravel this mystery. By the early 13th century, Genghis Khan was in his prime. His empire grew at a breakneck speed, his army was feared across Asia, and the man himself was a legend, a force of nature. But there's something curious in his conquest narrative. India, right there in the south, remained untouched by his army. To the west, the Khwarezm Empire was annihilated. The Middle East, Eastern Europe, subdued. But India, a land rich in wealth, culture, and influence, was left alone. Why? Was it strategic, political, or did Genghis Khan see something in India that made him think twice? Let's dive in. First up, geography. India's natural defenses are no joke. The Himalayas form a gigantic wall in the north, the Thar Desert in the west, and dense forests in the east. For a mobile, horse-dependent Mongol army, this terrain is anything but friendly. Unlike the flat, open steppes of Central Asia, which were perfect for Mongol cavalry, India's diverse topography would have slowed them down, worn out their horses, and challenged their logistics. India was a different beast entirely. And let's not forget, invading in the sweltering heat of the Indian summer, monsoon rains, and unfamiliar diseases would have been an absolute nightmare for an army used to the cold, dry plains. But it wasn't just geography. India at the time was a patchwork of powerful kingdoms. The Delhi Sultanate, Rajput states, and the Chola dynasty in the south were strong, formidable forces. The Mongols would have faced a united opposition from these kingdoms, who had resources and armies ready to defend their territories. And then there's the elephant in the room. Literally. Indian war elephants. Genghis Khan's army had never faced elephants before. And these beasts weren't just for show, they were a battlefield terror. The Mongols may have been the best cavalry force in the world, but when a 4-ton elephant comes charging at you, your horse isn't gonna look too tough. But Genghis Khan wasn't just a warrior, he was a strategist, and he knew when to pick his battles. By the time he reached the borders of India, he had already stretched his empire thin. His resources, his men, they were tired from years of relentless campaigning. India, with its vast and difficult terrain, would have been a risky proposition. It's one thing to conquer, another to hold. Genghis Khan was practical. He realized that even if he won a few initial battles, keeping control of India's vast lands would be a logistical nightmare. So instead of risking it all for India, he decided to focus on consolidating his empire and securing the territories he already controlled. Now, here's an interesting twist. Some historians suggest that religion might have played a role. It's believed that Genghis Khan had a certain respect for Buddhist regions and sacred lands. His empire tolerated different faiths, and India's rich spiritual heritage, particularly in the northern regions, might have influenced his decision. Remember, Genghis wasn't just a barbarian conqueror. He had a nuanced understanding of the cultures and religions of the lands he subjugated. Maybe, just maybe, he saw India as a land of spiritual significance, not just a political conquest. Whatever the reason, the fact remains. India was one of the few places Genghis Khan chose not to invade. Perhaps it was the terrain, the formidable kingdoms, or his strategic calculations. Or maybe it was something deeper, a respect for the ancient land of India. In the end, it's one of history's great what-ifs. What would have happened if the Mongols had invaded India? Could Genghis Khan have added India to his already massive empire? Or would India's geography and culture have stopped him in his tracks? One thing is certain, Genghis Khan's decision to turn back changed the course of history, not just for India, but for the entire world. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. Why do you think Genghis Khan refused to invade India? Comment below, and I'll see you in the next one.